morning, Bucknutters. It is Thursday, March 8th, 2018. I'm Dan Rubin. This is the Bucknuts Morning 5 and Change, coming to you from a crisp, cold, snowy Gem City. It's the Midwest. The winter sucks. Steve Wiltfong is here, as always, 24/7 Sports Director of Recruiting. Steve, how are you?
Good morning, Daniel.
We're going to get going quickly here today. Steve and I were jabbering before the show, and as I sit and put together the itinerary for the show, whatever you want to call it, I noticed that Steve always does something good for us on Wednesday night. Knows is not for the show, which is lucky timing, but last night, Jaleel Billingsley, a 6'4", 220-pound tight end from Phillips Academy in Chicago, the number 9 tight end in the country, was offered by Ohio State yesterday. No sooner than that, got off the phone with him apparently, and you logged in a crystal ball for Jaleel Billingsley to Ohio State. Give us the vibe.
Well, Ohio State coach Kevin Wilson offered Jaleel Billingsley last night. Tight end still a big need for the Buckeyes right now. They landed the nation's number 1 tight end in this past cycle, Jeremy Ruckert, who I think is a potential 3-and-done type talent, but they still are very thin at the position and will need, you play multiple tight ends in a season, so they need someone to run with Ruckert, and Jaleel Billingsley is a top target, the kid out of California, the Wolf kid. Luke Deal out of North Carolina is a guy that they're going hard at, and then Braden Liebrock from Chandler, Arizona. Kevin Wilson is recruiting all those guys, and with Jaleel Billingsley being out of Chicago, talked to him shortly after the Ohio State offer. He said this was one that will alter his recruitment. It's a game changer. He wants to visit soon. I just like the Buckeyes for a kid from Chicago at a position of need, so we'll see what happens.
How good do you think he is?
Well, state champ, one of the best players in the Midwest. But, he's going to look the part, and so I think he's one of the finest tight ends in the country.
He's got a really nice offer list. Shocker, the other school that's mentioned in a prevalent fashion is Penn State. I was saying to you, it seems like every recruiting battle now is Ohio State versus Penn State, and what sticks out to me about that is that it's no longer Michigan. But he's also got offers from Florida and Nebraska. He is visiting Illinois today. He's visiting Michigan on St. Patrick's Day. So it's early in this one, but a name you need to know, Jaleel Billingsley, tight end, Phillips Academy out of Chicago. You've been all over it recently. You recently had an item on Trevor Keegan, another offensive lineman. Bring us up to speed on that, and then let's talk about maybe the emphasis Ohio State's putting on the offensive line in this cycle.
Well, they need offensive tackles in this class, and it's a huge need. And Trevor Keegan is one of the top offensive tackle prospects in the Midwest, and he's visiting Ohio State today. I expect him to get offered, and I think Ohio State will be a finalist at the very least.
How good do you think he is?
Well, I think that he's got a huge upside. He's got a great frame. He's a very mean individual. Saw him at the Cleveland Nike camp last year, and he was ferocious all day. He's not as polished as some of these other guys, but the ceiling is through the roof for Keegan. We like him a lot, have him ranked in our top 100.
Do you see him as he's a definite, as I'm looking up, he's a definite tackle prospect?
100%. Yeah.
Okay, good. Because it is interesting that they have moved outside, like you said, the tackle. They're all over these guys. It's almost like there's a new name every day here. And they seem to be serious about the offers because the interest is reciprocating. Yeah, it's huge, which is excellent that they're on top of it early. It would not be the BM5, it would not be Ohio State if we did not have a discussion about the position of quarterback. I noticed at Urban's press conference yesterday to start the spring, he kind of gave a general answer on quarterbacks to the first question, which was asked by Dave Bill, I might add, thinking that he had it wrapped up, and the next 5 questions were all still about quarterbacks. So it's an interesting topic there, but also on the recruiting front, we've talked about Max Duggan. Talk about Max Duggan, but also talk about Grant Gunnell, the former Texas A&M recruit. That's interesting just because he's back on the market and has expressed interest in Ohio State. And the Duggan one is interesting just because I think the general vibe on the boards is they don't see Minnesota, which he's been crystal balled to, as a real threat to Ohio State usually. So talk about those two quarterbacks and make us smarter.
Well, Grant Gunnell on campus yesterday. I believe he's still there today. Not 100% sure on that or what the great Bill Kurelic has reported. I traded some text with Bill Kurelic this morning about the Pacers, and I know he was watching his daughter play softball. So Grant Gunnell is on campus. And, again, quarterback, it's a need for Ohio State this cycle because the depth chart could thin out here, as you all know. And Max Duggan is a kid that Ohio State's all in on right now. Grant Gunnell is the highly ranked prospect out of Texas, was committed to A&M. Oklahoma State has got some crystal ball traction right now. We'll see if Ohio State moves the needle at all on this visit. But Max Duggan's a kid that Minnesota, they've done a terrific job recruiting him. P.J. Fleck, works as hard as anybody on the recruiting trail as a head coach recruiter. Soraka, the lead recruiter there, has done a really good job. And you look at Western Michigan, the Zach Terrell kid was a 4-year starter at quarterback that got better every year, and his senior year took Western Michigan to the Cotton Bowl. So there's a body of work that PJ and his staff can point to and say, we developed the position, right? So Minnesota's got a lot going in its favor for a kid like Max Duggan all the way around. But Ohio State is a stage that he's intrigued by, and he got there last night to meet with Ryan Day, and then he's going to be there today for the spring, and then he's going to be on campus Friday morning before heading up to Notre Dame. So it's going to be a big visit for Max Duggan and Ohio State. He's coming with his family. His dad's his high school coach as well. His dad was a college quarterback on a lower college level, but was a really good player on that level and is a really good high school coach. And so I'm intrigued to see what happens this visit because I think that Ohio State has a shot to land him. You just don't this is one where I feel pretty good that Minnesota leads coming in, and we'll see what Max feels like coming out. And then he's going to Notre Dame. Notre Dame's a school he grew up rooting for. And TCU next weekend, and then North Carolina's in the mix. Those are kind of the main players for Max Duggan as I see it right now.
It is kind of nice that on a day when the snow is falling, they got a recruit coming in who's already been crystal balled to Minnesota, so at least we don't have to worry about the weather affecting his decision. Like when
no, they're driving right through it.
Yeah, I'm sure they got snow tires, so I'm not worried about them. Speaking of snow tires in Indiana, it's almost like we should talk about this guy every time. I'm starting to get the real vibe. He's going to be a Buckeye. That's just me. You've helped. Samson James, the running back, he has a visit scheduled.
Yeah, I'll be at Ohio State next weekend. He told me last week he'll be at Michigan this weekend and Ohio State next weekend. I haven't talked to him to see if anything's changed, but he was at Tennessee this past weekend for what was a good visit, so maybe the Vols made a move. I just like Ohio State based on everything I'm hearing around the kid and how hard Ohio State's recruiting him. But I'm not calling it like it's not like a lock. I'm struggling with my words this morning. But Ohio State is they've recruited him as hard as anyone on the board, and he'll get back to campus, and he wants to take his official visits in the spring and make a decision before his senior year. And Ohio State, I think he's the top one or two back on their board.
Yeah, he's a stud. I told you I got a little nerves about Indiana running backs given the Rod Smith experience, but we will go for it. We appreciate Steve stopping by. For those of you who are old like me, and when you heard Jaleel Billingsley and Max Duggan and thought of the Beavers' mom and Jason Robards, you are not alone. Let's have a good one, Bucknutters.